Welcome to Frameworks. This is a place for coaches who want more than just sets and reps. We dig into the principles, philosophy, and stories that help you coach with clarity, design with purpose, and to keep chasing mastery. Today, we're tackling a topic that is quietly shaping how a lot of coaches think, and sometimes how they hide. We're talking about science versus scientism. Science is one of the greatest tools that we have. It helps us see patterns, confirm truths, and to uncover new ones. But somewhere along the way, many coaches stopped using science as a tool and started to treat it as a belief system. In this episode, we're going to unpack the difference between the two, why the obsession with evidence-based can actually make you a weaker coach, and how to bring science back to its proper place, a place of confirmation and not a place of truth all in its own. So let's get into it. First, I just want to start off by saying that science is extremely useful and beneficial when we use it in its proper form. I am not saying that science is not useful and beneficial, and I'm not anti-science. Let me start off by talking about what scientism is in my definition. So, scientism is the belief that science is the only valid path to knowledge, that if something can't be tested, measured, or published, that it isn't true. It also assumes that human experience, morality, and meaning must bow down to what can be quantified, and that anything that can't be studied in a lab isn't real or worth considering. It's when we stop treating science as a tool to understand reality and we start treating reality or science as a reality all in itself is when I believe we can go astray as fitness coaches. This brings us away from our truest intention in helping people, building relationships, knowing what is actually true, and exercise principles and nutrition principles and relationship building principles, and not waiting for the latest study to be published to then say, oh yeah, that's true, I need to start implementing it in my relationships with my clients or in my training programs with my clients. So I just want to start off there and just say that science is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that science is a bad thing, but we can make it a bad thing when we start to worship science. Framework number one is simply just understanding the difference between science and scientism. Okay, science is a method, it's an observation, and it's an experimentation. It's the ability to refine through data, through a vigorous process of understanding what is true and what is not. So science is a good thing. Scientism is a mentality, the belief that if something can't be measured or proven in a study, that it isn't real or even valuable. So we have to stay away from that thinking, in my opinion. The dangers coaches start outsourcing their thinking to the research. That is the biggest danger, is when we stop using our brains and we're like, okay, I need to outsource my thinking and my rationale only to the research. The research is actually there for us to discern and to understand what it means, okay? Fitness truths existed long before PubMed. Consistent movement, good sleep, real food, recovery, and connection. Those things are what I believe are the most important things as fitness coaches, and those are the things that we must understand and continue to dig deeper, even in science. So I think that is a huge difference in science and scientism. It's just the way that we approach it, okay? Science can confirm truths, but it didn't create them. Think about something that you just inherently did. It could be in coaching or outside of coaching. And you did it for months and months or years and years, and eventually a scientific study came out and proved what you already knew to be true. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's actually a great thing because it's confirmation. And that truth existed before that scientific study proved it to be true. My point to that is to prove that science doesn't create truths. It just confirms them, okay? And then even on the other side, there's a bunch of things that I've done in my past with clients and in coaching that I thought were the right way to go about it. And then a study came out and it was in opposition to what I was doing. But I, found myself confused in some areas because I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, I've been doing this for, years and I've seen it work, right? So even when we see science look like it's disproving something, we have to discern that, and we have to understand that every individual is different. For instance, when we look at some scientific studies, we might have n equals 15 people. right? That's 15 people out of billions and billions of people around the world. So maybe that thing is true for those 15 people in the situation in which they find themselves, but maybe it's not true for absolutely everyone. So we just have to discern that and really understand what the science is telling us, what these papers are telling us. But we need to look at those things because it just gives us more context. And as coaches, we should always be looking for more context. So framework number one, we should understand the difference between science and scientism, and don't fall for the trap of going in the way of scientism and putting that over actual science. Framework number two, I just want to challenge you guys to put principles ahead of proof, okay? And I get that might sound weird because those two things might sound like they're the same. But what I mean is put tried and true principles, things that you know to work before the next study that you're waiting to come out. So every great coach operates from principles, individuality, simplicity, consistency, and progression. Evidence should support these principles, not replace them. And let's just be honest, studies can mislead, whether it's short time frames, untrained subjects, variables that you never actually use in real life. Your real laboratory is your coaching floor. You test, observe, adjust. That is real science in practice. And we have to also understand that a study might show one thing, but we may prove that thing to be untrue, or better said, maybe unnecessary when we start working with real people. So, there's a lot of studies around intermittent fasting and how intermittent fasting might improve insulin sensitivity. Does that mean that you should incorporate intermittent fasting with all of your people? Not necessarily. What if not eating breakfast for someone brings down other things that are just more important, right? Like cognitive function, their ability to move, to train, and to do so at the level in which they want to do it. And that's not saying that that study was wrong. It's just saying we need to contextualize all of these studies and all of the science, and we need to discern what works for every human, what works for every client that we are working with. So the challenge here is to put the tried and true principles a little bit ahead of the proof in the next case study or the next study that might come out. And framework number three, okay, another challenge for you guys. Let's be truth seekers and not trend chasers. So the best coaches, they blend evidence, they blend experience, and they look at these things together, and then they work their hardest to create the best outcomes for their clients. They don't reject science, they interpret it through principles and the people in which they're working with. Coaching is equal parts art and science, and we've talked about that so much. If we just bias the science, we become robots, right? Like ChatGPT could be a great use of science to give a client something that might move them forward. But we have to blend that with the art, right? Like, do we know the person? Do we understand what they enjoy? Where they found success in the past? Other considerations in their day-to-day life, right? So we need to blend the art and the science. And the art is knowing when and how to apply what the science says. And I think that's really, really important. We need to be really good interpreters, okay? Your highest value isn't in citing studies, it's in creating change. And I think we would all agree on that, right? So, a lot of our clients actually don't care what the studies say. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't stay on top of it and understand what the latest studies might say, because sometimes we need to, be able to explain that stuff to our people. I know, I have clients, and I'm sure that you as well have some clients that, they find health, wellness, fitness, longevity, all of these things really interesting. And they're always like reading the latest article or listening to the latest podcast. So I think it's actually really important for you to understand what the science is saying. So please do not interpret this as me saying ignore the science. Absolutely don't do that, but just understand it and understand how it connects to the person in which you're working with. And I think something else that's really important is we need to understand that connection, trust, and behavior, these are the things that are not easily studied, but they're really the things that drive results. Science can tell you what happens in the lab, but coaching tells you what actually works in real life with the person that you are working with. Okay, so what does this mean for you as a coach? How can you apply these frameworks and ideas in your coaching practice? Number one, I would just offer that you would stay grounded in principles. Every new study should be filtered through the truths that you already know, the principles that you're already implementing. So don't be a paper chaser, right? Like, don't change your approach based on every new study that just came out that had an n equals 3 as the population that were a part of that study. Okay, stay grounded in those principles. Second, experiment consciously. Okay, try things, track outcomes, observe behavior. That is your data. That's what we would call empirical data, the things that you notice based on your own practices. So experiment and experience consciously, and experiment consciously while staying really close to those principles. Okay. Number three, teach your clients the why, not just the what. So science is really sterile without story and without meaning and without understanding how that connects to your clients. So let's just make sure that we're always teaching our clients and moving them forward. Resist the urge to prove. Okay. Focus on improving. Your time is way better spent helping humans than debating citations. Okay. And there's a lot of places where we can go down massive YouTube rabbit holes where we can listen to the next evidence-based coach. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we can get lost in the sauce a little bit there, and it can be really confusing because there's a lot of people in the fitness sphere, if that's a word, that are just looking for the next thing to talk about. So when a study comes out that might be surprising, that's probably what's going to hit your algorithm. So don't be veered and don't be swayed into the latest research like I talked about earlier with that n equals 3, because maybe that's not true for everyone. So the goal isn't to be anti-science here. So I apologize if I came off as, or if I'm coming off as anti-science. I'm definitely not. It's to put science back into its rightful place as a tool for truth, not a substitute for truth, and as a substitute for just wisdom and the things that we already know to be true. Because what we do as coaches isn't about being right on paper. It's about being right for people that we're working with and just to get results and to move those people forward. So stay grounded in principles, keep learning, and just don't forget that truth existed before that latest piece of research proved that piece of truth. So thanks, guys. Thanks for bearing with me in this episode, and I hope that it was helpful for you. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you're watching this and not listening to it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and comment. Let's have a conversation around this thing. And if you found this conversation helpful, it would be awesome if you could just share it with at least one person. So thanks a lot. It was great chatting with science versus scientism with you guys, and we will see you next time.